All right, welcome back to episode 81 of the Hops and Bops podcast. I am producer Tom.
I am Joe.
Still Mike.
Still Mike, after all these years. Nice. And for this episode, we are going to be doing the Slow Rush by the Tame Impala. They're the only one. And to pair that, we're doing Accelerator by Two Roads Brewing Company. It is a doppelbock beer. 7.2%, so it's a little heavy. Well, not really, but it's 7. Once you get to 7 and above, it gets a little, you know,
a little hefty.
Hefty.
You know, sometimes when I pick a beer, it's because I just like the taste, and then that's all I go off of. I kind of went off of this one just purely on the name. I read a book by its cover on this one. My bottle opener is a Swiss Army knife because I don't know where my keys went.
It's fucking pouring out right now.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't remember to put some towels down. There's a door behind me. Bueno.
Well, let me just
supposed to do that.
If I have the can.
Oh,
I bent it. This is a very old Swiss Army knife. I bent it.
It's like a family heirloom when you bent it.
I went to use this side because there's two sides to it. This one just kept going backwards. It's not supposed to do that.
That's good.
But I got it off. Believe it or not, I actually did have this already. My neighbor came over and we watched some of the March Madness, and so I was like, oh, I got a 6-pack already, might as well. So it's pretty good. But we're here. A cheers, a gentleman.
Thank you. There you go.
Just okay.
Amber color.
Mm-hmm. It's a bit darker. Now, I'm not well versed in the double bock conversation of beers. But yes, I will look up some stuff about it right now because, you know, we do live research on this show.
I have Two Roads description up if you'd like.
I would love.
Go ahead.
Accelerator is programmed with generous amounts of toasted German and North American barley that's lightly balanced between toasty, dark, and lighter, spicy malt. Designed with a robust body, this complex, capable German-style lager delivers a satisfying mouthfeel and floral hops. With its shimmering, deep copper color, Accelerator is built to satisfy all humankind. 7.2 ABV, Two Roads Brewing Company, Stratford, Connecticut.
Wow. Yeah, the marketing is kind of like robot themed, if you couldn't tell. That's like the little mascot guy on there.
I'm going on there.
Yeah.
I
like it.
Yeah, what I'm reading about double bocks, they're kind of more of a winter, like warm kind of a beer.
Yeah.
Often described as liquid bread because they're like thick and hefty. I know about that. But yeah, they're a lager style beer, but they're obviously a darker lager. Obviously, you can tell with the whatchamacallit, coloring. It's a much darker amber almost kind of color. When you think of a lager, you think of things like, you know, Bud Light's a lager, and that's pretty much, you know, semi-hydrated urine. So let's see. They come from the town of 𝙏𝙚𝙚, and from the German word Bock, meaning male deer or goat.
Can you say 𝙏𝙚𝙚 in a bit like angrier of an accent?
Is that better?
Perfect. That's all I needed. God bless you.
Well, yes. So there's different kind of Bock beers, traditional Bocks, Maibach, Eisbach, and
your Bock?
No, it's your Bock.
My yeah. So double Bocks tend to be malty, a little bit nutty, the hefty, thick, a little nutty.
You need them in the winter.
This is good. I like it.
I do too.
It's like in the middle between like a lager and an IPA for me. I mean, I'm an idiot, so I don't know what my taste style is, but that's at least what's running through my head right now. I
did just have bananas, Oreos, kielbasa, and fries. So
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You got a nice flavor palette going.
I just still can't stop thinking of the adjectives hefty, thick, and nutty.
And it had a robust body.
All right.
Sounds like someone Saturday night.
Definitely complex.
It's not that. I mean, if I had my choice, I wouldn't have bought a 6-pack of it. It's just not my type of beer.
Yeah.
But for what it is, it's got a solid flavor. This will be a 6-pack that I'm sharing with like 4 people.
Mhm.
You bring it, you bring it somewhere and you leave it.
Yeah, I actually saw when I was at the package store the shelf of like kind of like the Island of Lost Toys, but it was the shelf of lost beers.
Yeah.
6-pack, because it must have been like breakage, like a couple broke or a can dented, and so they have that. And they did not have Headway, nor did they have this in the Lost Toys.
What a letdown!
So I had to do a 6 of each, or 4 6. But
I was very lucky. I was able to get a single can of each.
Wow!
At the make your own 6-pack section.
Good for you. Good,
No,
good.
But
Dick.
But is this one in season, Joe? Is this a year old, or is it at least like freshly canned?
This is May 30th, 2022. That's the date on it.
Oh, that's Best Buy. Okay, I got June 22nd.
Oh, me too.
Oh, twinsies.
Ooh, we have the same batch.
Probably, yeah.
You're like beer twins.
We're like Eskimo cousins or whatever
I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it.
We've had the same robust body.
Same batch. We've had the same thick, hefty batch.
We've had the same nutty buddy.
Just Eiffel Tower it, why don't you?
It is late.
So this phenomenal album.
Anyway, yeah. To transition after that, or into this album that we have, it is the Slow Rush by Tame Impala. If you refer all the way back to episode 8 or 9 or something, I did Currents by Tame Impala, which was their 2015 album, and that's probably one of my favorite albums of all time. It's not a 10, but it's very, very close. A lot of the psych rock feels that they go for, the songwriting, the fact that he did it all by himself is kind of interesting as well. So it's all just from the output of one man, Kevin Parker, who I believe is from New Zealand or Australia. So they're pretty close. The reason why I chose this album to do was because they are going on tour right now. They're on the Slow Rush tour. And I went with our very good friend, Mr. Paul Kanarki. Been on the show quite a bit. One of our more frequent guests, but he's one of my good friends, and we went to go see it together. We actually had very cheap seats here. They were $70 for the pit, which was fantastic. We got there pretty early, and we're sitting pretty dead center. By this point, I made like a vlog kind of thing, or like a recap of what happened. And that should be on our YouTube channel if you want to go find that. And I did like a smaller one on TikTok as well, but got a lot of very cool visuals of the show, very heavy with the lights and visuals, just fantastic. The laser production, they had so many cool lasers, a huge background behind them that showed a lot of cool visuals. And obviously they have great performances because I think they make very solid music. But this is a different album, obviously, than Currents. At least from personal experience, I remember when this came out, I was still at the tail end of being in college. I remember being pretty disappointed with it when it first came out, just because it didn't really live up to expectations. And when I reflect on this album as a whole now, I mean, pre-concert, because I feel like that changes things. I know when you guys did Dirty Heads, you guys had a bit of a different experience to the album when you saw it live. But I didn't go see that, obviously. But when, but before the concert, I remember as a whole being kind of disappointed with it. Just didn't really live up to my expectations of what it should have been. But when I go back and listen to the album as whole, when I look at the track list, I'm like, okay, that was a pretty decent track. Okay, that was an okay track. And I go in deeper. When you look at it track for track, I think it's better than what I reflect on it as a whole. It doesn't live up to the standards of the last one, but I think it stands its own and doesn't lean too heavy into the rock aspects, is a bit more psychedelic synth-wise, which I think is kind of the kiss of death if you're not really into that style. But I enjoyed it as a whole, and it was just a fantastic concert. That's kind of why I wanted to bring this on the pod.
Question.
Yes.
2 questions.
Yes.
Were you high when you?
No, but I wish I was.
Yeah.
I said that in the episode. Or in the video I did at the very end. I was like, I fucking wish I was. If you see,
I feel like it would lend itself well to that.
Yeah. If you see in the very beginning, it was kind of like medicine themed. The tour was like they had a big prescription pill bottle outside saying like Rushium. There was like a fake prescription drug they're gonna push. And at the very beginning, they had some kind of like fake doctor you'd see on like medicine ads, or like your Rushium takes 30 minutes to kick in, so make sure you take it right now. Like kind of hinting at people. They're like, hey, you should get very high to see the show.
Shit now. Yeah, right.
But funny. Yeah, I did not do that. But yeah, that probably would have lended to it. I saw a couple of my friends afterwards at the show, and they were gone. They were very red-eyed.
Yeah. Second question. Are there any albums by them in between this and Currents?
No, they had 2 albums before this. They had Lonerism in 2012, I think. And they had another one before that I have not listened to. But
so this is their first album since Currents.
Yes, yeah. This came out in 2020. Wow. Currents came out in 2015. So they kept their fans waiting for 5 years. Okay. They had Inner Speaker in 2010, Lonerism 2012, Currents 2015, Slow Rush 2020.
Third question.
Yes.
What am I listening to?
This is the Slow Rush by Tame Impala. It's an album that came out in 2020. If you didn't listen to our last episode, Mike was hinting towards not liking this album. Which I went back into the catalogs. You gave Currents a 6 or a 3 at that time. So I'm wondering as to what changed your opinion.
You kind of hit the nail on the head, and me and Joe kind of made some Zoom eye contact when you'd said it. There's not much outside of the psychedelic aspect on this album. What I like Pink Floyd for is the fact that, I think they've got very good lyrics and they've got an unbelievable guitarist. I do not love Pink Floyd because they are so spacey and out there. That's the one thing that makes me lose Pink Floyd. This is just me personally. This album literally felt like a 50-minute, like I should have been tripping the entire time. And I don't know. I had a very hard time focusing. I had a very hard time distinguishing one track to the other. Like it just kind of became an hour of sound for me personally. I just felt like I didn't feel like there was much diversity to it. It was just kind of a guy on his synth. And I was like, okay, where's it going? Like, what are we going to try next? What are we going to hear? Are we going to hear a riff or something drive a little more? I don't know. I felt like I never really got it.
Yeah, I kind of echo a lot of the same sentiments as Mike. I think I like Currents a lot better than this album. I
agree with that.
Well. Yeah, Currents.
I felt like it had songs.
What's that?
I felt like Currents had songs.
Yeah. Right. Like I remember, I still to this day I can pull up a song title and I remember what that song sounded like. Not necessarily with this, at least in a more minimalist sense. I felt this album didn't groove as much for me. It definitely was more spacey for me. And I don't know, I just feel like it didn't show any growth from those 5 years or 2015 and 2020. Yeah. In fact, in many ways, I feel like they kind of, I don't want to say digress because it's their sound. And, if they want to lean more into the psychedelic, then so be it. But in that respect, I didn't hear any growth.
Yeah. I had a very hard time listening to it. Like getting through it front to back. I felt like I lost it, and then I had to do something else, and then I tried to go back to it, and yeah.
No, I get that.
I got it. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the tracks could have been cut a minute, 2 minutes longer or shorter than they needed to be. I mean, this album is that's a 57-minute album, but it's 12 tracks. So it does feel a lot longer. It kind of plays into that trippiness. Starts to lose you after a little bit, but I think some of the melodies and the grooves and the singing is pretty classic Tame Impala. And then I mean we can get into the track list from there, but I feel like this album plays better in terms of singles than a full album listen. But it starts off with One More Year. Definitely a lot more synth heavy than the last one. I like in the beginning that kind of wavy, slowed down One More Year intro. Thought that was kind of neat. This is what they started the show off with, and I don't know.
That
I like
song is a good intro.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about 2 minutes too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 5.5 minutes. I can totally agree with that.
I don't think I would have. By the time I got to the end of that song, I no longer wanted to hear that song. And I thought it was a good intro. I remember that was the one thing that I kept remembering because I had to replay the album because I kept losing myself.
Yep.
Keep replaying it to kind of, where was I? What was I doing? And I kept saying oh, this is a pretty cool intro. It's not a bad way to open it because I don't expect the intro song to necessarily be like a banger, but it's just got to open the album, which I think it did a very good job of doing. But I didn't need the album open for 5.5 minutes.
Yeah. I feel like this track felt a bit more, well, at least is what he said the track was. It felt a bit more freeing, kind of releasing himself from all these constraints and all these limits that he had on before. Kevin Parker, the main guy through all of this, he talks about the concept of time and not caring about its limiting factors, but rather living life to its fullest in spite of them. So maybe that plays into the length of some of the tracks and maybe keeping it a bit more trim. But I think that also plays into the fact that he didn't drop an album for 5 years, and all this turmoil and whatever passed by him.
It is interesting how you mentioned freeing because a lot of these songs don't have a specific format or a rhythm or a
no formula.
No formula. That's what I mean. And I guess that is one positive. They really just went for it and went for what they feel. But this song in particular, it did open well. It just didn't really go anywhere. Like if you scrub through and just kind of randomly fast forward, it's just it's the same groove. Didn't really progress much for me. So the fact that it's nearly 5.5 minutes to open an album was kind of tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
But,
that's fair.
I will say I didn't mind the second song.
Yeah.
Instant Destiny.
Yeah.
I like this one too.
It came in, had kind of like a Silk Sonic vibe.
Okay.
With those falsetto
vocals.
Yeah.
Kind of a little almost R&B kind of groove to it. The drummer coming in with the fills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about it. I thought it had a better groove. Thought the drums were better. I thought really the chorus I liked how it opened with the chorus.
Yep.
And then the chorus, and it makes sense because the chorus was, in my opinion, the catchiest part. The verses were a little mundane, not a ton there, but I did like the chorus. Maybe it's the vocals, maybe it's the drum groove a little bit. But I do, I thought this wasn't a bad song.
And
this song was kind of echoing Currents a lot. I could have heard this on there.
Yeah. And I hate to keep reflecting back onto Currents, but that the kind of underlying theme of falling in love and finally reaching the courage to talk to this girl, and something happens and it doesn't work, and then everything kind of falls down, kind of has a cool narrative and progression that it follows through with. Kind of creates a two-sided album. This one almost just felt like he was doing a bit of a a recap of what he's been going through the past couple years, which is
Mhm.
fine. You know, I've got no issue with doing an album like that, but you kind of lose that cool narrative that you follow through with. And this track specifically talks about his proposal to his wife Sophie and their eventual marriage, which is cool. He you know, the talking about instant destiny, like, you know, is a cool way to tie that in. But in terms of narrative, which I hate saying that word over and over again, but I think that's something that makes a greater album, or at least has that extra layer to it that makes it such a classic. And I think that's a lot of what this album lacks. But I will say I do love this. I love this song. I think this is a great song. Can get a little repetitive, but I do like the verse kind of brings it back down.
Yeah, it was one of the stronger songs.
Mhm.
Then we have Borderline next.
I believe this was a single. This is
Yes.
What were the singles off of? I know Patience.
Now,
There's one called Patience, which was not on the album. I knew that. I'm mad because that's a good song. I like that one.
so yeah, the singles are Borderline, It Might Be Time, Posthumous Forgiveness, Lost in Yesterday, Breathe Deeper, and Is It True?
Yeah.
On a, what was it, 12 track? Yeah, that's half the album.
I think it's Posthumous.
It is posthumous.
Posthumous, my bad.
Something after you die. Anyway,
Yeah,
the
my
track Borderline. This is one of my favorites. Obviously it has that single quality to it, or at least a Tame Impala's version of a single quality. This is where I think it plays into that style that I was talking about before, where it kind of repeats that same vocal melody, even though it is a good vocal melody, but different lyrics for the whole thing. And I think it's a bit harder to follow when you're in a live setting. But no, this is a great track. I love this one. Very, very groovy. Had a good solid bass to it.
Yeah, this one grooves.
Sure.
It's like hypnotic. You know, you're saying the same vocal melodies. It makes it very hypnotic.
And I think that's also plays a little bit into that, like kind of getting lost and not again making it seem like a longer album than it really is, and losing a little bit of focus.
Yep.
Like I almost feel like when a vinyl gets stuck,
yeah,
like it just keeps going the same, and I'm just like, and like, but when you've got it on in the background and you don't notice it got stuck, and then like 3 minutes in, you're like, am I really just listening? Shit, got stuck again.
Yep.
What's funny is I actually went to the record store today. I went down to Wallingford over to Red School Records, and they had vinyls of this album. They're $30. I wasn't gonna buy it, but
yeah,
insane. It's crazy. $30.
Yeah, but I just definitely the songs have like a good piece to them, and then they just get too much.
Right.
Of that, they too much of a good thing, it gets ruined. You know what I mean? Like it's overplayed, and like, it's like when you hear a new song and like, yeah, this song rocks, and you play it 50 times, and by the 50th time, you're like, man, the song's not good anymore.
Yeah, I can understand from that point. If it was like 2.5, 3 minutes, I think it could have been a little bit better, or at least it had a different kind of vocal melody in there.
Something that changes it.
Well, I mean, Borderline, you know, it's only
I do love it though.
What is it, like, you know, maybe a 4-minute track? It's not terribly long.
No,
but
it's not.
Again,
it's not the next track.
Right. But the groove is good. It just doesn't. It doesn't go anywhere. It could have used a little break. Yeah. Drugs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We had this conversation earlier.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, I feel like you just got to be fucking gone.
Yeah.
And then you just be like,
yeah.
Yeah. But right now I'm not, and it's just
next time you do, let's put this on, see if it changes your mind, you know.
Deal.
Okay. We have Posthumous Forgiveness next. This one was strange. I think overall I enjoyed it as a track, but it just had so many weird moments to it. You kind of have this funeral vibe to it. I believe it was written about Kevin's father, I believe. Hold on, give me a second to look that up so I'm not speaking out my ass. This was one of the singles. The song features Parker speaking on his deceased father, with whom Kevin had an estranged relationship due to his parents' early divorce. The first half of the track features a funk-heavy bass line reminiscent of Inner Speaker, which I think you would probably like to check out. That they have a bit more of a rocky sound in their earlier albums. With the second half features a wall of synths similar to Currents. But this song had very, very different parts to it. I think when they build up a little bit more, it's more interesting. But again, like kind of talking on Mike's point, when they get to that, it kind of is a little too much.
I think when they came in with some of the different synth tones, that was the biggest pick me up in this song for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like you got some synth tones that, like you just said, sounded more kind of like Currents and kind of that rock vibe. Not that they had the guitar aspect, but the synth aspect of it. And I was like kind of a little more what I was looking for, and expecting. Almost like a crunchier synth rather than just like that airy, like, oh, I'm getting lost. But it was a strange song.
6 minutes, yeah. You could have chopped 2 minutes off of it and still be pretty
halfway
long.
Through. Okay, yeah, next.
I would say around I think it's the 4 minute mark, at least.
Yeah.
Or a bit before that, actually. Completely different song. I don't even know. It's like they tacked on like an interlude.
Yeah.
Maybe if you left it as its own track, it would have at least added something to it. Yeah, like 3:54. Completely different song.
Yep.
I don't know.
They did that with another song too.
I'll tell you about the time I was in Abbey Road on the time I had Mick Jagger on the phone. I thought of you when we spoke. So it's more of a personal track talking about his father and everything. And I understand that you kind of want to give this, like we said, Elton John, you have that funeral for a friend song that's like 12 minutes long. It's kind of a in memoriam or like kind of attributed to them in a sense. So I understand it from that aspect, but as a single, maybe not.
Yeah.
You got Breathe Deeper after that.
I like this song a lot.
Yeah.
I think this might be my my favorite track on the album.
I can agree with that. Standout. Starts off with kind of like a 90s R&B hip hop vibe.
This is like Michael Jackson, something like Off the Wall. Like it just has that funky groove. This one you can sing along to. It's a little less on the synth and more on the groove. But the synth is more of a compliment than what drives the song. I really like this song. And once like the first part of the song ended and then it came back in, I'm trying to think where.
By chorus or after the chorus?
No, like around like the 4:30 mark, the song like ends. And then it sounds like you're playing it through a speaker. And then it comes back in with a completely different groove.
That kind of crunchier compression,
yeah. And then it ended with a completely different groove, and I liked that groove too. Like, so the fact that it was all in one song, made it a good listening experience from beginning to end, despite its long, running time.
I can agree on that. This is the track where they kind of go crazy on the lasers, especially in that second part where they go, with the synths get a little I agree. This is a great track. I don't know if it's my favorite track, but it's definitely one of the better spots in the album for me.
Still too long.
Still too long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, let's kiss of death for this album.
I'm 3 minutes in. If this song ended right now, I'd be like, man, that was a fucking good song. There's still 2.5. There's still 3 minutes left.
Right. And I liked that second section, like after the speaker sounding thing and that new groove that came in. But if they just condensed
Or
you
made
know,
it 2 separate songs.
or that, right.
Go one way or the other. Whoop, or
But it takes away from that freeing theme that they're talking about. Like that's what they wanted to do. So fuck it.
Tomorrow's Dust follows up after that.
sounds
Yeah.
like a song written by Toto.
It sounds like a Faster Africa. You're right. Holy shit. Yeah.
I had never thought about that. Yeah, this is, I could see where this starts to yeah.
I'm like, fuck you.
No, I actually don't really
Oh,
like
I
this
know.
song.
Yeah.
This song kind of just feels like an interlude that they were like, hey, maybe if we jam out to this song, we can make it into a full-length song. But it never really reached that upper echelon of like standalone track, you know. So
yeah. You were in a documentary about like rainforest animals, and the person made a connection with a specific animal. This would be in like the montage of their time together.
The capybara has found a friend.
And then at the end, the animal dies.
Well, yeah, and he's tomorrow's dust, so it all works together. Also, there's a woman at the end of the song on some phone. That's I believe Kevin's wife, Sophie. It was brought up in Instant Destiny at the beginning. Previously, the track was going to be called Wild Horses, but due to a copyright strike from some band with some song named that, I guess I've never heard of them. It kind of had to be changed.
Like Turning Rocks or something like that. Yeah.
We got On Track afterwards. It was all right, I guess. Better in concert. This is the one where they shot the confetti out, which I will say, I didn't.
Somebody.
I will say,
pretty cool. They just kind of fell off stage.
Listen,
blood everywhere.
When I heard this song, I literally died. I will say, I didn't mention this. They shot a lot of confetti out.
They shot a lot of people.
There were so many shootings.
Too many people died last year.
No, there were 6 confetti launches throughout the whole concert. Like, I feel like that's too many. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's post-COVID brain talking, like not being used to a concert. But 6 confetti launches for any concert is too many.
That's just a lot to clean up, though.
Like, oh my god, it was throughout the show.
Yeah, it was everywhere. Oh. By the way, we went to like some kind of weird kiosk, and because we saw it in Mohegan Sun, there was confetti everywhere. They were in like halfway across the casino. I found a little piece of green confetti on the ground. But I like the motto and like the theme of this track a bit more than what it actually is. Kind of talks about being optimistic and trying to keep your focus, themes of perseverance, yada, yada, yada. Kevin Parker described the song as the emotional core of the album, which I can understand, and also said the song was inspired by the power ballads of Supertramp and Meatloaf. So
yeah, big Supertramp vibes to this, especially vocally, now that you mention that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Supertramp got really high and wrote a song.
Yep.
But again, the same themes kind of play in as well. Gets a little bit longer in the tooth. It's 5 minutes and a second. So I understand. But, you know, when you get a bit more psychedelic, that tends to happen. You kind of lose track of time, and then suddenly it's like, oh shit, it's 2:00 and I've been up this whole time. I probably should go to bed.
Again.
It finds its groove and sticks with it, for better, for worse. I don't know. I liked it when it like the chorus wasn't, or the verses were a little bit more low key, and then when the chorus kicks in, I'm still on track. It kind of sounds like a big grand statement, which kind of plays into that power ballad-esque feeling that he's going for. I thought that was kind of interesting, but I get why this is not the best track on the album, but I think it does have its own merits. However, the next track, Lost in Yesterday, this one fucking slaps. I love this one. It kind of finds its pocket very quickly. It gets very deep into it, a little bit faster than on track. Picks it up tempo wise and energy wise. A bit more singy of a chorus. I think you can follow along a lot easier. But again, like I said before, same vocal melody for the chorus, but changes up the lyrics too much. You know, it's hard to sing along to unless you know every little nook and cranny of the song. And maybe, at least concert wise, could have been a little bit better. But I mean, I love this song. I think it's the songwriting in this is very solid. This
It
one's
is a
kind
good song. I mean,
Yeah.
I do like it. It's a little bit shorter. It's only 4 minutes.
yeah, it was a single.
The song
Yeah.
reminds me of like a Weekend song too.
I
Yeah.
can see that. Yeah, bit more of those falsetto vocals that are a little
Yeah.
R&B ish.
And I think those are part of what also gets me a little bit. All of his vocals are very falsetto based, and it's like I feel like he doesn't have, not that he doesn't have vocal range, but he doesn't show vocal range.
Right.
I mean, on the last track, he wasn't super falsetto-ish, but I think that kind of plays into his sound a little bit. You know, I think he establishes what his style is and plays into that. I can understand, but I mean, for this kind of music too, you don't really need like super deep. You don't need super deep like low growls like on the last album.
No, I'm not saying that, but I don't know. I feel like, and again, maybe it's playing in with the same synth, those repeated kind of melodies, and then the similar style of vocals. I'm just getting a very like elevator music, repeated background, becomes kind of droning after a while. I struggled with this, still am.
Okay. I kind of like the themes of this one though, kind of talking about nostalgia, kind of lost in yesterday. And we have Is It True following that?
This one I like. It's got a little more of a driving rhythm to it. He's a little bit more in like a standard vocal range. He's not really singing in that falsetto. And
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to harp on it too much, but that's something I think it's at this point in the album when I realize like, oh shit, maybe this album is better than I thought it was, because there are at least elements at the bare minimum. There's elements of each track that I think are really good. You know, maybe, you know, they have elements that are bad too. They're a bit longer, get a little bit repetitive, all these other things, but every track has something to it that's like, yeah, you know what, that's really good. This one I think is the beat to it, that kind of the drum pattern that they keep repeating. And I think his vocal, at least melodies, have a bit more of a shakeup on this. He kind of goes for a couple different ones, and then I like that synth that's in between the verse and the chorus.
Yeah.
Kind of layers it on top of itself. Adds
so
a bit
right
more.
around a minute and 40, he goes back into the falsetto, but it's more of an accent to the song, and shows its range rather than the whole song just being synth falsetto. I think that's why this song sticks out to me so much, because I hate to go back and say it sounds like a normal song, because what the fuck's a normal song and who wants just normal, right? But
Yeah.
just the idea that like, I mean, like that synth he's using in the background, like that's a cool sound that he's playing in. He's singing a little more in a range that's maybe achievable or even just like enjoyable by like for that long term. And then when he hits those falsettos, they stand out more because they're almost like an accent. I don't know. I just think this song right here is very well put together, and it's 3.5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3.5, 4 minutes. And I don't know. I think this is one of the better songs on the album.
And yeah, as you were saying that, I was going back in the catalog, like all the songs that we'd listed before. I feel like it goes like on and off in terms of, is he leaning hard into that falsetto vocal range or using it as a bit more of an accent? Like Lost in Yesterday, he was using it more heavily. On Track, not as much. Tomorrow's Dust, he was. Breathe Deeper, he was kind of singing a bit more in that natural register. And Posthumous Forgiveness, obviously, he was doing it higher up in that. So it's kind of an on and off again thing that keeps it a bit more on its toes, I guess. But I can understand if you're not a big fan of that, why that would get annoying.
Even someone like Justin Timberlake, who has probably one of the best falsettos of modern music, like we can probably agree with that, and is a fantastic singer. When he sings a song in like all falsetto, which he has a few of, like after a while listening to it, it gets a little bit like,
sure,
Branch. Like we know what you can do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this album just kind of stuck with that a bit.
Joe, do you have thoughts?
No
thoughts?
How are the drums?
How are the drums?
Drugs or drums?
Well, a little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both. This is just not for me. This album, not for me.
Okay.
It's not as focused as I would have liked. There's a couple good songs on it, but it's I don't know. It's just not my style.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I can agree.
Yeah, and
I'll be honest. I actually find, and this is just a little side note, when I listen to an album on my own, and versus when I listen to it like as we're talking,
mm-hmm.
I actually feel like personally I get more out of it when we're talking than I actually do.
I completely agree 100%.
For sure.
I don't want to trounce on your point. I was originally going to give your album like a 1.5 because I really did not like it. But when you talked about it more, I like the more and more I listened to it, I was like, okay, you know what? Those first couple of songs were pretty solid.
Yeah.
Well,
I totally understand that.
Same with this album. Like I really by myself, I say I listened to it once through. Okay, that's complete. But I did listen to it a couple of times in pieces. Yeah. And going into this, I couldn't tell you a single song title. Like couldn't tell you one. Because I just had a very hard time focusing and finding a time where I could listen to it and actually focus on it versus it became so droning that I get lost. But, as of right now, I could tell you my 2 top songs right now, like and what they were. And I'm seeing those elements of things that you really appreciate. And they do make sense. They are, and it definitely changes my view on certain things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it helps hearing, someone's expertise on it. It's kind of persuading, and you hear their perspective on things, and it helps. It helps for sure.
For sure.
In terms of the rest of the album, I'll keep it pretty short because I don't have too many other opinions. I liked It Might Be Time. I thought that was a good track. I liked how it built as it went and then kind of went all out near the end. I also liked the parts where it kind of stopped completely and just kind of let the energy dissipate and then immediately pick back up. I thought those were kind of interesting. Had, again, that kind of Supertramp, maybe logical song feeling to it. I thought that was kind of neat. But doesn't really close out as solid as I wanted it to. I can speak on that. Did not really like Glimmer too much. Thought it was kind of aimless and directionless. Weird intro, but it definitely had a bit more of like a weird clubbier sound to it. It literally says on Genius, this song came about from Kevin messing around with some equipment and tape loops. So it's just straight away throwaway track. Then you got the closer, One More Hour, kind of plays into the One More Year at the beginning.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay, but I feel like it could have ended the album much better if it was tweaked. Joe, you are shaking your head prominently no, and I'm interested as to why you're doing it.
I don't like it. It's over 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
And not
Definitely,
to end an album.
Yeah.
There's nothing to like latch on to. And the one thing I do like is it calls back to the album opener, one more year. And I do hear some of the elements being pulled back in from that song, which is cool. But I felt when you do a song like that, you got to offer like something new. And while it is its own song, it just didn't offer anything new and memorable for me, especially as an album closer. Yeah, this
So
not a shining moment for me.
let me explain my at least understanding of it. Maybe it'll influence you a little bit more.
Yes.
Again, it's 7 minutes. I understand. Not a great way to close it off or tie in the themes. But I think what the themes of the album are going for is that there's a passage of time, right? There's some level of whether or not you realize it, time is moving both very fast and very slow, which I think kind of plays into the slow rush theme of it. And this song is a bit of a small like bubble as to what that's talking about. You've got these slower build up at the very beginning, comes all crashing in at once, and then kind of comes back down a bit. Starts with like that tiny piano bit, which isn't necessarily the most engaging. And then but it kind of builds itself up with these anthemic guitar riffs, those hard hitting drums. I thought that was kind of an interesting way to tie it in with the One More Year, bring it into the One More Hour, because like one more year, what's a big deal? One more year, we have our fans waiting 5 years for an album, and then you slowly realize, oh shit, the passage of time can be the same thing as what's one more hour, it's not a big deal. So it's these little time segments you never realize like how much they impact you until you look back on it later in your career or whatever it is, or in your life. So I think in a thematic sense makes a little bit more sense, but purely on a song standpoint, I mean, this is what they ended the entire tour, or not tour, but the entire show with. They did The Less I Know the Better on their encore, and then they did this song. So I was a little disappointed with that. If they just ended with The Less I Know the Better, would have been good. But in terms of the album, I think they could have trimmed up, make it a little bit neater, but I understand why they did it. But that's my piece. So let's go into some of our favorite tracks. Since this is my album, I guess I will go into it first. I am going to go with, I gotta go Borderline. I think it was one of the more interesting tracks. Had a bit more of a groove to it, a lot more of a dancier, almost like a disco-esque, not disco, but it definitely played into that dancier vibe to it. I really liked what they did on the remade version of it, and had a bit more of a vocal, some kind of vocal swagger to it, and I enjoyed that one the most for me. I mean, there's a couple I could have put there, but I think at the end of the day, I just got to put that one. The vibes are immaculate.
All right. My favorite track is Breathe Deeper.
Sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed the main part. I enjoyed the little stereo sounding part. And then I really enjoyed that last groove part to end the song. And that, because of the variety, didn't, or it took it. I didn't quite focus on the length of the song because there was variety. It is by minutes one of the longer tracks, but it didn't feel like that. It gave me a lot within that song. And it groove too. It was a great groove. It was a good song. So that's mine. Breathe Deeper.
Is it true? I like Is It True?
It is.
Had a good drive, good bass line, good drum beat. Changed up with the vocals a little bit. I felt like that song just really vibed for me. It was one of the ones that stuck out. I was close with Borderline. That was another one that I had a really good, and Breathe Deeper. All those three, as you stated,
exactly,
it almost works better as a single album. If you told me to listen to these 6 songs, I would have done it multiple times. You add in the other 6 songs, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
That's exactly what I was thinking when this album came out. Like, I listened to it top to bottom, and I was like, it's not the best. But if you go back and look at just the tracks by himself, you're like, oh, that's okay. That was okay.
Yeah.
So,
but Is It True was definitely the one I thought had the most kind of variety. It was had the most variety based on what the album had as a whole.
Mhm.
but also sounded the most like a more mainstream song,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was a big fan of that one. So bottom,
Yeah.
Bottom.
You're up.
I think for bottom, I mean, there were plenty of songs that I struggled with, but I think the idea about one more hour that I literally could just skip through and kept hearing the same beat, and I mean, being seven and change played a role. Ending the album played a role. I mean, you put all of those factors together, it was just
Mhm.
I could have ended it song 10 and called it a day.
Just purely on a music standpoint, not necessarily on a track length standpoint, I'm probably gonna go with Glimmer. I mean, he literally said straight up like, "Oh, this is me just playing with my pedals and seeing what would happen." It's very do nothing, added nothing to the overall vibe or feeling of the
Yeah.
album. Weird like dance, not dance, but like club-ish sound to it that didn't really add a lot to me. Yeah, it's my bottom. And coming near the end of the album too, and didn't really add a lot.
Yeah. My bottom track is also One More Hour. Not really what I wanted in an album closer. Its content paired with the song length just didn't jive for me. It was a double negative for me. I actually kind of liked Glimmer. I liked the groove. I don't know if I would end the album with that, but Tom, your perspective on it helped a little, but I just didn't like that song at all.
That's totally fair. You're not putting that in a playlist anytime soon.
No, not at all, unfortunately.
Sleepy Dark Horse is going to be a little bit difficult because unless we're doing like just second favorite track, I mean, there's 6 singles. So
was Lost in Yesterday a single?
Lost in Yesterday was a single.
Fuck, that was my
that's my second favorite song too.
Yeah.
So
I like that one. Well, that's it. I'm gonna go.
Just pick your second favorite track. That's not
another track to go to. Lost in Yesterday. Yes.
Breathe Deeper. Same reason as the other one. It had a good groove. It was more, a song I could kind of jam to.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about it when we were in the podcast. It was because that came before Is It True? It was the first song that really hit for me. That was like, okay, this is another like good song I could vibe and jam to and everything else. Mm-hmm. If I had to absolutely pick a song that wasn't a single, it would have been Instant Destiny. And I think only because that caught my attention super, super early and what had some good parts to it. But again, longer track.
Yeah.
No, actually it was 3 minutes, my bad. But a little monotonous. I think the chorus on that song was what caught me. Mm. The rest of the song was kind of meh. But if I'm picking second favorite song, Breathe Deeper.
Yeah, if we're going second favorite, because again, there are a lot of singles. I agree with Joe. Lost in Yesterday is probably my second favorite track. Mm-hmm. But if we're going non-singles, I'm going to be stuck between One More Year and Instant Destiny. I thought those two had a lot of quality to them. I like how One More Year kicked off the album, and I like how Instant Destiny kind of played into that as well. But yeah, that's about it. So I guess we shall rate it. Again, like I said, like it's hard to rate this because in terms of just the tracks by themselves, I think it plays more of a better role than if you listen to it from start to finish. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's 12 tracks. I think I like probably about, I think 8 or 9 of them are pretty solid. So I'm going to give it probably about a 7.5. I think that's a fair enough rating. I actually went back and looked at my rating for Currents. And at that time I had given it an 8, but I think I'm going to actually give Currents a 9 out of 10 if I can go and revise my score a little bit, because I think that's just a fantastic album. And I don't think the Slow Rush really lives up to that. The single power and certain qualities of each track are good, but again, you need to trim most songs down by at least a minute to 2 minutes to 3 minutes to, in terms of this closer, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. But I think as I was going with this review, kind of like Mike said, as you go along in some of these episodes, you get a bit deeper of an understanding for each album. And I think the passage of time is kind of the bigger context or narrative of this. Maybe it wasn't as concise as Currents was in terms of its theming, but I think as we were going along, I understood it and gave it a bit more of a rating as I was going along. So I think 7.5 is where I'm sitting at. That's what I thought of before the review. And yeah, I think that's about right. So whoever wants to go next can go next.
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to look up what I gave Currents, not to always compare.
I've got it open. Hold on, give me a sec.
Got it open.
Yeah, because at that time we were at a 5, so I just multiplied by 2. You gave Currents a 7.
7. Wow.
You did.
Okay.
So 3.5.
Yeah, right. I'm giving this one a 4.
Okay.
It was a little too scattered for me. I got way too lost in it. I appreciate a few of the songs which I've named as my favorite and all that. It is good like background music, but in terms of like an album experience and would I come back to it, probably not. I do think Currents is a much stronger album now that I have some context behind Tame Impala. When before I listened to Currents, I thought it was him. I don't even know, but now I know it's a band. But I think Currents is a much stronger album, better release than this. So yeah, unfortunately, this one's a 4 for me. 4 bops.
Okay.
3.
I thought you were going 0 real quick.
Honestly, and I'm gonna be kind of almost spot on with Tom with the last album.
Yeah.
If you asked me straight up, like prior to this conversation, I don't even know if it would have made a 3 for me.
Yeah.
Giving it the next listen through, kind of the conversation about some of, not even just the themes, but just some of the strong points within the songs. I think I got hung up on the idea of they were very long, they were very monotonous, and it was very hard for me to pick out details because I was like, fuck, when is this song going to end? And when are they going to play something other than just on repeat? Like, it was very hard for me to just wrap my head around all of it. But finding songs like Is It True, Breathe Deeper, even Borderline, definitely pulled a few more songs out that I'm like, okay, may not go and listen to a bunch, but I can listen to. So it gave me a little more sense of respect and everything for this album. Definitely thought Currents was better. Tame Impala, really not just my thing in general.
I would go listen to some of their earlier albums, a bit more rocky, a bit more, might be up your alley.
Yeah. And that might be something that kind of grabs me a little more. Currents was definitely, in my opinion, I enjoyed more than this. This was a little more struggle for me to actually focus and get through. But I am going to give it a 3.
Since we're here and since we're reviewing things, why don't we review this little fella, the Accelerator by Two Roads, a brewing company. I thought it was enjoyable. It's, like I said, kind of like a light lager. If you're not super into lagers, maybe this double box style is for you. And it is for me. It's not something, like I said, that I can crush a whole 6-pack of, or even attempt to do that, even though I probably will because I bought a 6-pack of it. But I think it was pretty good. I'm going to give it probably about a 6.5. I think that's a fair rating to give it. You like that spicier, malty, that robust body. I'm going to give it that nut. Shouldn't have said that. It was surprising because, when you say double bock, you're like, what the fuck is that? It's not an IPA. We don't know what drinks are that aren't IPAs. So, but what it did have, it was solid. And for not being a big lager guy, it kind of gave me that taste without giving me that full, lagerness. So I think 6.5 is right where I'm going to be sitting on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right around with you, Tom. I'm giving it a 6. I enjoyed it. I think this is like one of the better beers I've had from Two Roads. Not always my favorite beers. Some of their IPAs are a little off for me. But I really like this one. Kind of reminds me of a Blue Point kind of flavor, which I enjoy that kind of beer.
Lager.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed this, and I would definitely have it again. I'll go with 6 hops.
6 hops.
I'm hovering, so I'm gonna go 4.5.
Ooh, okay.
It's a down episode for you.
It is. This was a rough one. Originally, I wanted to say 4, and then I kind of leaned towards 5, and then I was like, yeah. I wouldn't buy it again. This just isn't my style of beer. You know, I kind of made a joke at the beginning of drinking 2 and giving 4 away. I'm not really like antsy to drink the rest of these. I don't know. I'm just not, especially once you get into like that darker lager, as they say, the nutty flavor, like that's just not my thing. The brown ale, you know, this kind of mimics like a brown ale, like a Newcastle, but with, like you said, that toasted lager from Blue Point kind of flavor. It's not that I won't drink it. I just won't go out and purchase it and drink it kind of on purpose. I'll drink it because it's offered. I'll drink it because it's there. And this one just wasn't bad. I could drink it. It was enjoyable, but it just wasn't really my favorite. I wouldn't purchase it again.
Anyway, let's shout them out. Yeah.
Shout them out. So we have Tame Impala on Instagram.
Yep.
Check them out. And then we have Two Roads. Let me check their Instagram handle real quick.
It's
I
Two
took
Roads
screenshots this time, by the way. So I didn't have to like search it up, but clearly I'm still behind. Two Roads Brewing on Instagram, and then we have tworoadsbrewing.com, and very excited to be going to Two Roads in June for their Road Jam Fest, featuring Mahali.
I might have to join you for that.
Our new friend.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
shout out to our boy, by the way.
Yeah, he shared us and he said, "Yeah, can't wait to see you guys." Tom, are you coming with?
I might have to now.
Come, yeah, it's good.
I kind of want to. Yeah. I've never been to Two Roads before, so it might be fun just to go and tour their place.
Yeah, come. Yeah, you should come down.
I have to do an episode with Mahali there.
Yeah, right. Very excited for that. It's gonna be a good time. Yeah. So episode 82 next.
Yeah, but Joe, it's your pick, so you choose the album.
My pick. All right, so I'm gonna go with a couple of my favorite things in this world. I'm going to be picking a beer by Tribus Beer Company.
No.
Yes.
I've heard of them.
Yes.
Who's that?
Actually, it's very similar to Accelerator. It's a similar style. It's called Alt Beer. I love it. It's great. It has hints of toffee in it too, and it's a very good beer. Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. It's kind of like a dark horse beer for them. And then another favorite thing in my life is the Foo Fighters. And as we know, their drummer Taylor Hawkins tragically passed away recently, and I'm a big fan of them. And it hit me hard, and still to this day it sucks. It just sucks. So I'd like to bring his debut album with the band, which is actually their third album. It's There's Nothing Left to Lose. Features the big song Learn to Fly. So we'll be doing that album and seeing how that sounds out.
Sweet.
Right.
There you go. Very good. Hops and Bops podcast, another episode in the books. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Reach out to us if you want us to cover anything specific. We'd love to hear from you. Hit us up on the socials. Give us a follow on all the socials. Search for us. Yeah.
If you're interested, I did a little like video vlog thing of the Slow Rush tour that's on our YouTube channel. Has like a fair bit of views, actually, like somewhere in like 50 to 100 views. So did pretty well. So if you want to go actually see the visuals that I was talking about, you can go check that out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Cool
check that out. Very good. And then as always, stream us wherever you get your podcasts. We got our visuals on Spotify and YouTube as well. So check us out. Check us out next episode. Dig deep in the archives. We really appreciate it. So there you go. That's a wrap for Mike and Tom. I've been Joe. We'll see you next time.
Peace.